Willis and Wade said that they paid her own way on the trips or reimbursed him in cash for her share of expense. In cash. All right. So I was gonna do a week wrap up like I usually do of things that went on politically, but this Fani Willis case has really been intriguing me. I didn't really know what the whole circumstances surrounding it was. I did some research on it before I started this video. It seems like she was in a sexual relationship with her top prosecutor, something Wade, whatever his name was. Um, and then I guess the judge decided to make them decide which one stays on the case. So let's read through this document and see what's going on. Uh, Atlanta Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis accepted the resignation of Nathan Wade, her top special prosecutor in former President Donald Trump's election interference case, after a Georgia judge made Wade stepping aside a condition of allowing Willis to remain on the case. The decision bolstered chances that 15 defendants, including Trump, will face trial in Georgia for attempting to overturn the 2020 election. In a 23-page ruling that followed hours after dramatic courtroom testimony last month, Fulton Superior Judge Scott McAfee ruled that Willis's romantic relationship with Wade, the top special prosecutor she hired, created an appearance of conflict of interest, but did not require her disqualification. Okay, yeah, so they were having sexual relations, and that's why they need to be removed on the case. For obvious reasons, you can't be the prosecutor and then be in a relationship with the leading attorney. Anybody that says if you're sleeping with somebody you can't influence their decisions has never been in a relationship before. McAfee wrote that an outsider could reasonably think that the district attorney is not exercising her independent professional judgment totally free of any compromising influences as long as Wade remains on the case. This unnecessary perception will persist. Well, yeah, no shit. That's what I just said. If there's any person looking from the outside in will not be able to discern that he is controlling or your decisions are not being influenced by him and vice versa. McAfee gave prosecutors a choice. If Wade does not resign from the case, Willis must step aside and refer the prosecution to the prosecuting attorney's counsel for reassignment. Yeah, I don't understand why the judge doesn't just do that and avoid this whole charade, because even if they hand down a guilty verdict, is still going to be a black eye on Fulton County judicial system. Willis, in a letter accepting Wade's resignation, she said complimented him for his professionalism and dignity. Yeah, I'm sure that's not the only thing she's complimenting. The decision marks a significant turning point in the multi-year-long quest to investigate efforts to undermine the 2020 election result in Georgia. Willis, the first black woman elected district attorney in Fulton County, took office just 5 days before the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Though appeals are expected, prosecutors and the judge can turn their focus back to moving the case toward the trial. Earlier this week, McAfee quashed 6 counts with the indictment through 35, though 35 still remain. Known for her sharp courtroom skills and affinity for deploying Georgia's racketeering law to prosecute complex webs of criminal activity, Willis guided the case through months of investigation by a special investigative panel to a grand jury, which handed up a sweeping indictment of 19 people last August. The case focuses on efforts by Trump and his allies to overturn Georgia's 2020 election results by pressuring the state officials and election workers, submitting a slate of false electors and attempting to tamper with sensitive voting equipment. In January, one of the remaining co-defendants, former Trump campaign official Michael Roman, accused Willis of misconduct that threatened to blow up her, at least derail the case. Roman alleged that Willis enriched herself with the case by taking fancy vacations with Wade, funded by his compensation for the case. Willis and Wade said that they paid her own way on the trips or reimbursed him in cash for her share of expense. In cash? Oh, so I think I saw something earlier about this in the week where she mentioned that she had large amounts of cash sitting around. So they are incentivized to delay the case, because the longer they delay the case, the more money they make. During a multi-day evidentiary hearing last month, lawyers sparred over when Willis and Wade's relationship began and over the veracity of their claims that Willis reimbursed Wade in cash. As prosecutors fought subpoena for Willis to take the stand, the district attorney appeared in the courtroom and declared that she wanted to testify. Willis and defense attorney sparred over intimate personal details of testimony. The testimony became so tense that McAfee had to call for a 5-minute recess. In the end, McAfee found out the evidence demonstrated that the financial gain flowing from her relationship with Wade was not a motivating factor on the part of the district attorney to indict and prosecute. And he wrote that the defendants failed to show how Willis's conduct influenced the case. Huh, that's interesting. Defendants argue that the financial arrangement created an incentive to prolong the case, but in fact, there is no indication that the district attorney is interested in delaying anything, McAfee wrote. So, Fani Willis is responsible for, I guess, the length of the case, accepting and denying charges, and the prosecutor is her boyfriend. And the longer, if she can use whatever lawyer tactics to prolong the case, then he gets paid more, and by proxy, she also gets paid more. That's what it just seems like what I just read. I was looking at that video previously. Let's hear the most generous version of the spin-off that they're going to do. I'm trying to log it.
Let's bring in MSNBC legal contributor Katie Fang, MSNBC legal analyst Charles Coleman, and state attorney for Palm Beach County Dave Ehrenberg. Good to have you all. I'll go in order. Katie Fang, your takeaways from, I know everyone's just reading the lengthy documents. What's your first takeaway? Yeah, Vika, so having had a chance to review this order, a lot of us predicted that there was no actual conflict of interest because based on the law, the evidence that was submitted during the course of this hearing even made it clear that that didn't exist. The question of what legal standard Judge McAfee was going to apply was the biggest question that just got answered. He kind of did a hybrid, right? He said no actual conflict. However, an appearance of impropriety when it comes to specifically the role of a prosecutor is found here. Now, it's a little bit of a Solomon's choice, right? Do you keep Nathan Wade or do you keep Nathan Wade? I mean, I think it's a no-brainer, right? You get rid of Nathan Wade, but to the point that you've made and that everybody has just made, including Jonathan Levere, the delay factor. Remember?
How is it a no-brainer? I don't understand how it's a no-brainer. I think he was the leading attorney on the case before the DA took it over. He has the most knowledge of the case. If anything, she should be recused. But to me, both of them should be recused.
Nathan Wade's role in this. He started before the special grand jury was even put together. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. He started before her, so he probably has more intimate knowledge of the case. So if anything, it makes sense to keep him and not her.
Spearheaded this investigation. So he took this investigation, he fed it into the special purpose grand jury, got those results, and then he also participated in the grand jury. And so you have to think about the institutional and historical knowledge that Nathan Wade has. All that being said, if the solution here is to move forward with DA Fani Willis and the rest of her team, including the other skilled and incredibly competent special prosecutors in Anna Cross and in John Floyd, who we know is the king of RICO, or kind of the professor of RICO in Georgia, again, like I say, it's a no-brainer. That's what you do. Yeah, for sure. Dave Ehrenberg, I'm curious your first gut reaction to this order.
I think this is a victory for Fani Willis. She gets to stay on the case, and the case will continue, even though it's been delayed. I thought the judge would try to split hairs here, remove Nathan Wade, and keep Fani Willis. But how do you do that? Because if you don't believe Nathan Wade, then how do you believe Fani Willis? Because she adopted Wade's affidavit, and that's the tension here.
Yeah, that's a good point. If she adopted an affidavit, I think it's just a document that they submit. I guess corroborating their story from the context. I don't know the exact definition of what the affidavit does, but if she's going to adopt his version of whatever story that happened, if you don't believe him, you can't believe her either. It seems like that's pretty common sense, in my opinion.
But the judge decided to try to walk that tightrope because the standard is indeed whether there is an actual conflict, not a perception of one. And there was no actual conflict here, but there is an appearance of impropriety. So one of them has to go, and it will be Nathan Wade. And quite frankly, it should have happened already. If it had, we wouldn't have had all this.
Yeah, this goes back to my original point. Why didn't it just remove both of them and just avoid this whole black eye situation? If they just remove both of them right now, then yeah, you're gonna have some stench of impropriety. But if they're both removed, then no harm, no foul.
Reaction wrong and then for Judge Chucker on this attorney. It does seem like the choice ahead of her is pretty clear. What is your first immediate thoughts as to what we're reading right now?
Well, like Katie, and I do want to give Katie all her flowers as she's too. She was the first of our colleagues to point out the actual standard of Georgia law when it came to the removal of a prosecutor. And I have been thinking about that since she pointed this out way at the beginning of all these hearings. There was really only one way that the judge had to go if he was going to follow the law, and that was if there is not evidence of an actual conflict, which we did not see presented, Fani Willis had to remain as the DA. Now, she did call out some things with respect to the removal of Nathan Wade, and I did anticipate that there would be a rebuke of Fani Willis' behavior, and I see on page 9, the judge has written, this finding is by no means an indication that the court condones this tremendous lapse in judgment or the unprofessional manner of the district attorney's testimony during the evidentiary hearing. That is very strong language, and it's something that I expected you would hear from the judge in this case. All of that being said, I think the conversation that Lisa alluded to about the notion of polluting the jury pool is really interesting when you start to think about, now you're talking about with all these cases, both civil and criminal, the jury pool of the entire...
Yeah, that's one thing that I didn't consider. The jury, everybody in the country probably knows about this case. Like, how do you go and select a jury pool that's unbiased after this? I don't even pay that much attention, and I knew about this because I kept seeing it all over my YouTube feed. I kept seeing notifications about it. It's all over the place. How do you select an impartial jury? That's for them to figure out, I guess. But this opens up for an appeal on the back end because if a negative verdict, if a guilty verdict comes down, then Trump's team will just be like, well, this whole thing was corrupted. I don't understand how he's guilty when these people can't run a legitimate case or a legitimate trial.
Electorate. And it's contaminated and cross-contaminated wherever you look because of everything that has happened, and even a decision like this. And so it would be interesting, not only in the legal realm, but also in the political realm, to see how all this shakes out, given the fact that at this point, you would have to be living under a rock, not have been exposed to some level of information around.
Yeah, exactly. That's my brother here makes a very good point. That's the same logical conclusion that I came to. Let's see if they... So we saw the most generous take of whatever's going on. Let's see if we could find a take that is not so generous, so we could get a feel for the middle of the road.
Jonathan Turley, constitutional attorney, GW University law professor, and a Fox News contributor. We've got part of the story here, Jonathan. We're still waiting to hear from Fani Willis, the DA in Fulton County, directly, but we do know that Nathan Wade, not a huge surprise, has severed himself from this case, and now we're waiting to hear from her.
Well, Wade didn't have any option, let alone a good option. The judge said that he could choose to resign, but there was not much else he could do, because if he didn't, the whole case would be taken out of the office. The only alternative was to go on an appeal that would be unlikely to succeed and would delay the case further. The big question, as you know, is what will Willis do? You know, that she has now had multiple opportunities to do the right thing, which is recuse herself. Every time that moment has come, she has declined to do.
You know, power is crazy when you're so close to achieving, because if she gets known as the attorney or the DA that prosecutes Trump, man, she's gonna be running laps around Democrat circles for basically the rest of her career. Even if he becomes president again, she'll be known as the one to first convict Trump of something.
So she has put her personal interests ahead of the interests of her office and the people of Fulton County. I can't imagine how even Willis could go forward after this order, and these damning findings from this judge. I mean, he goes in great detail about how she made unprofessional decisions in a litany of errors, in her public statements and how she dealt with these allegations. She is damaged goods, and that's not going to be to the advantage of the people of Fulton County.
I wonder, I mean, you know, how much do you think that the people in Fulton County are going to be looking at the details of this decision from this judge? And she has been very forceful doing her own PR on all of this, and she could easily come forward and say, you know, how unfair this attack was on her. We saw her do it already in the church, where she said it was all race-based in terms of coming after her. And we could easily hear that from her again, although I would point out that in this decision, as you well know,
here we go. With the race thing again. Like, come on, man. I don't even, like, most people, like, this is how you lose legitimacy, right? You can't play the race card every time you're in trouble. You just gotta take it on the chin and then fucking get over it. Like, every time if you play the race card every single time, nobody comes to believe you. That's why these words have lost their meanings in 2024. Like, call people misogynist all the time, or sexist, or racist, and everybody. If you know who you are, you're just gonna shrug your shoulders at being called any of those things. That's typically what I do. Like, yeah, call me whatever you want. I don't give a fuck.
The judge tried to, you know, sort of slap that back and tried to admonish her from doing just that. But I don't know. What do you think, Jonathan?
Well, this judge gave her a great opportunity to do the right thing. He laid out two options, but he was clearly talking about a third option. He said, look, you could keep Wade, and then I'll just transfer this to a different jurisdiction. Or you could take this up on appeal, and then also there's the option. I should say the two primary options was to keep Wade or to get rid of Wade, but she could go on appeal. But the real option that I think the judge was referencing here was you can always do the ethical thing. You can always do the professional option. You could say, I don't have a positive role left to play in this case. I blew it.
Come on, man. You know she wasn't gonna take that. She wanted them trips and them vacations and look like she was balling, but then also get the win and get the power, you know. You couldn't. She wasn't gonna take that. She wasn't gonna take that option. Come on, man.
And the thing that's troubling for most of us is that the court details the evidence about the relationship before Wade was hired. It's really Willis's conduct after this allegation arose that was the most troubling. Many of us believe that neither she nor Wade were honest on the stand. Many people suggested that there might have been false statements given on the stand. There's certainly evidence that suggests that Wade may have given false.
All right, I'm gonna wrap it up. It seems like they're just they're going into further detail into the case. But I don't understand. Like I said, it's just going back to my original point. Why don't they just like scrap the whole team and then get a new team in there? That way you can avoid whatever blowback is going to happen from whatever the outcome of this case is. That's what I would do, but that's not me. But I'll catch y'all later. Peace.